fun point as well, plastic tailgate. So they do this to save weight and fuel efficiency. This is what I was talking about with that camera. You can just see that the refresh rate or the frame rate is really bad, and it just kind of makes it a pointless exercise. G'day, I'm Paul. So Mahindra, they have launched a black edition of the XUV. This is the cheapest way to get into a 7-seater in Australia. I was actually pretty impressed with this when we drove it the first time. Now this has sort of added a few extra features that were missing, in my opinion, from the first go around. We also had a chance to visit the Indian factory and also the research and development centre where this thing is made. So to get a bit of an insight behind how all that stuff works for Mahindra. I'll run you through that a little bit later on. Now, top spec is priced at just under $45,000 drive away. It's pretty impressive pricing for what is sort of decent sized family vehicle. Now, today we're going to do a detailed review of this car. If you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this review, you can use the time codes that are on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you could scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon. Now let's talk about design. So aptly, the black edition is black. Some of the black edition highlights include a black grille, black wheels, there's black highlights all around the car. It actually gives it a pretty stealthy vibe. When I first saw this in the car park at work, I'm like, that actually doesn't look too bad. So a big Mahindra logo down the front here, a lot of cooling there for that 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine. Full LED headlights. Quite a nice looking design there with an LED daytime running light. I've actually spent about 1,000 Ks behind the wheel of this, so I'll be able to give you some insights on the things that I like and don't like about the drivetrain and the cruise control as well when we go for a spin later on. Now around the side here, 18-inch alloy wheels, so it's like a glossy black finish, 60 profile tyres. You get wheel arch cladding as well. This isn't really an off-road focused vehicle, it's front wheel drive only, so you're not going to be doing any off-roading, and I wouldn't really be sort of taking it in any off-road conditions either, because front-wheel drives in off-road aren't really going to work. I would like to see them do an all-wheel drive version of this for Australia, because if you think about some of the competitors in this segment, a lot of them do offer all-wheel drive, and you can do a bit of light off-roading there. So I think it's probably something that Mahindra can look at. Indicator built into the wing mirror there, camera there for the 360 camera, black roof rails. These door handles pop out and then go back inside when you lock the vehicle, so that it sits sort of nice and sleek while it's driving along. Good for a bit of aero as well. And then more black highlight down the bottom there too. Come around to the back with me. Around the back here you have partial LED tail lights with halogen lights built into those bottom sections. XUV700, which is the way that they pronounce the name in India. It doesn't really relate to any engine outputs, but they do have different grades of this vehicle, and this is the latest version, which is the 700. We had the 500 here previously. Mahindra down the bottom there as well, and then another Mahindra logo just there. You've got some plastic cladding down the bottom here as well with those rear parking sensors as well, and then a shark fin aerial up the top. So let me know what you reckon about the design in the comments section below. Do you reckon it looks better as the black edition? I think it does. Let me know what you reckon down there. So we are inside the XUV700. This is what the key looks like. You've got lock, boot, unlock. Key flips out as well for emergency access. Mahindra logo on the back. Got a proximity sensing key, so you can leave that in your pocket. You press the door handle, then it cracks open. You've got a push button start just here. Now the black edition, funnily enough, also makes the interior black, and to me this is a much more sensible option if you're buying this as a family vehicle, because the other interior that was available was like a light coloured interior that would get really dirty if you've got kids. So this is a far better option if you do want something that is just going to be a little more sort of family friendly. Outside of that, and probably outside of the piano black, I'm not a huge fan of the amount of piano black around here, but you know, you can take or leave that stuff. Outside of that, this is really beautifully presented, and again, you look at the price tag, you really don't get much vehicle for $40,000 these days, but given that this is just over 40 grand drive away, and you're getting this big sort of technology stack ahead of you, and stuff like cooled seats, like it really is loaded with features, glass roof, it just sort of comes with everything you'd expect in a much more expensive vehicle. So they've done a really good job there of making this sort of look and feel quite premium. In terms of the touch points, sort of not too bad there. And nice on the door as well. How soft are they? We've got our durometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabinet. If you do want to see how this car compares to other cars we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description below. Now, build quality, what is it like? Nice and solid there in the center. So let me know in the comments section, have you bought one of these? What is it like to live with? Does it sort of stay nice and sturdy over time? I'm keen for your feedback. And this is what the door slam sounds like. Now let's talk infotainment. So I mentioned that you've got quite an impressive technology stack here, two 12.3-inch displays. I'll run you through those in just a second, but we actually had the chance to tour where they develop this car and also do a lot of the R&D work for Mahindra's range of vehicles. And they're working on some pretty awesome stuff. So they're working on a screen that actually extends all the way to a third screen on the passenger side. So I don't know if that's been revealed in the Indian market yet or not, but it is a massive display there. So they are a company that is actually looking to innovate and make this stuff more impressive and bringing things like, wireless smartphone mirroring, which again, I've had issues with wireless smartphone mirroring in cars before where it kind of drops out. This hasn't had any of those problems. So I don't know whether it's just a hardware thing on some of those other vehicles or a thing with the phone that's now been fixed with a firmware update, but this all appears to work really well as a wireless sort of Apple CarPlay setup. It also does wireless Android Auto, which I'll show you in just a second. But before I jump into that, you've got a 12-speaker Sony branded sound system, really good sound system, a lot of bass, feels sort of great from where I'm sitting here. The infotainment system, it's kind of split into these different sections where you've got shortcut menus. You can also swipe up from the bottom then to bring up your additional shortcut menus as well. It also has internal storage, so you can store videos and photos on here as well, and you can get them to display off to the side as well if you want. And then also shortcuts up the top to other functions that you can also then customize. So a fair bit of sort of connectivity there. In India, they actually have a lot of remote connectivity as well, and the car is able to then communicate with third-party services. So again, a pretty comprehensive setup. Some of those features we don't get here in Australia. I'll show you what Android Auto looks like. So again, wireless setup. Sort of pretty straightforward and easy to use as well. You also have this sort of rotary dial down here. You can customize what this does, whether you want volume or whether you want this to move through menus. And then you've got shortcuts there for audio, a custom function, and then telephone as well. Head of the driver, another display there. This has a stack of functions, so tyre pressures, tyre temperature, power and torque meter. You've got a litany of things there to pick from. Probably the only thing I'm not a huge fan of here is, have a listen to this. You got different noises to pick from. None of them are really good, so I'd love to just have something sort of normal there. And then if you turn the noise volume down, it doesn't vary with speed. So if you do switch your indicator on while you're driving and you've turned it down because it's making that noise, you then can't hear the indicator running. So then you've got to turn it back up, and it means that it's loud when you're not really moving. So the other thing as well, have a look at this screen. I mean, they've got a sort of Hyundai style indicator there when you're changing lanes. It's quite laggy, so when you're driving along, and I'll show you this when we go for a drive, it doesn't really keep up with what's going on, and it kind of just defeats the whole purpose of having a screen there and showing you what is down the side of your car, because there is no actual blind spot monitor built into that wing mirror, which is a little bit disappointing. I prefer to just have that as opposed to a poor quality screen here that doesn't really work that well. Let's talk safety. You've got autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. You don't have an auto dimming rear vision mirror, so it's just a manual setup there. I mentioned before you don't have blind spot monitoring built into your wing mirror. You've got radar cruise control, but no semi-autonomous steering function. One thing I will point out, we won't test the cruise control later on because there's no lane support system. It can be a little fiddly in the sense that when cruise control is running, it's just constantly on and off the throttle. It doesn't sort of have that sort of natural progression, and you do find that it ends up getting a little bit annoying and you end up sort of switching it off because it just needs a little bit more calibration to make it smoother than it is at the moment. So hopefully they can fix that with a software update. You've got rear parking sensors and a 360 camera. I'll show you what that looks like. So there it is there. The quality is actually pretty good. You can kind of see what's going on there. And then you've got a number of different modes you can pick from here. The other fascinating thing I noticed as well is sort of in addition to those different modes you can pick from, you actually have in here drive video recording. So it looks like it can actually record what's going on around the car onto an SD for general video and then emergencies, which I suspect is in a car accident or something. So pretty cool setup. You don't really find many cars that will record all of those cameras while they're driving. I just would like to see potentially that this screen is able to be full screen. This is kind of a redundant screen there if you don't necessarily want to see it. And this is what the horn sounds like. So let's talk about practicality, and we'll start off with your connectivity. You've got two USB-A ports, no USB-C here, which is strange. A wireless phone charger, plus a slot to hold your phone into if you do want to plug your phone up and you don't want it rolling around everywhere. Two cup holders here with rubber sort of grabbers on them. I don't know what to call them. Center console here with air conditioning, which is great if you want to keep your stuff nice and cool. You've got a Sunny's holder up the top there. You've got a reasonably sized glove box as well. It's actually very reasonable. Stacks of room in there, which is pretty good. And what about your comfort? Well, you've got dual zone automatic climate control, and then you've also got cooled seats now as well. So you press this button here and you can activate those. That is such a good addition, and it really just cools everything nice and down. There is no heated seats though, which is a bit strange. You've got cooled seats, but no heated seats. But anyway, seat memory over here as well for the seats, and you adjust the seats on the actual door itself. So you can go forwards, backwards, you can lift the entire seat, you can lower the entire seat, backrest forwards and backwards, and then you also have support over here on the driver's side, which is manually adjustable. Passenger seat is entirely manually adjustable. One thing I did notice though is the seats sit really high up. It's quite weird. If you're in the passenger side, there's no way to lower it down, and I think that would be a bit of a useful thing to have, but yeah. It's the only real complaint that I've got. And then on the steering front, it offers both tilt and reach adjustment. And on our reach test, all of this stuff is pretty easy to reach while you're driving. Now, second row, what's it like back here? So knee room is reasonable. Toe room's great, which is why I'm so confused about why the seats are so high up. Given there's so much toe room, you could really offer to drop them down a little bit if you wanted to there, but it is what it is. It's got a stadium seating setup where it's designed to kind of elevate the seating position the further back you go. So this actually does feel like it's got a good view and still quite reasonable headroom, even though you've got this panoramic glass sunroof there as well. You've got air vents back here, phone holder, USB charger, it's USB-C. So USB-C back here, but not up the front there. Map pockets there as well. Center armrest here with a couple of cup holders. Got ISOFIX points there as well, plus your top tether points too. Our window. So it's manual up and down. Oh, look at that. Goes all the way down. Excellent. Now, this is a 3-row vehicle. So let's see what it's like there in the third row. I think it's going to be tight. Now, third row. I'm going to caveat this by saying typically with these mid-sized SUVs, if they have a third row, it's just for kids only. So we'll see what it's like in there. But I remember last time it was actually pretty roomy. So you've got to climb in through the passenger side because, well, you can climb in through the other side, but it doesn't tumble forward like the passenger side does. So I'll climb on in there and we'll see what room is like. So pardon my bum on the way in. All right, so let me squeeze in over on this side so you can see me. Okay, so headroom isn't very good. I'm sort of just wedged up against that, but outside of that, the space isn't too bad. So knee room is reasonably good. If I wanted to tilt that forward a bit, I could, but ultimately it's not too bad. I would lift this as well if I was actually sitting back here. I've got blower controls for the back. I've got a 12-volt outlet, cup holders. It's actually not a bad place to be seated, even grab handles as well. So yeah, pretty decent setup here, even for an adult for a short distance, but kids would be more than catered for here in terms of space. Now, are you in the market for a 7-seat SUV? Well, have I got a deal for you? Well, actually, I have a page full of them. All you need to do is go to Google, type in Help Me Car Expert, or use the QR code on the screen. It's going to take you to the CarExpert website. We're a big company. It's like over 60 full-time employees. Very impressive. We also have a page on the site with all of the deals going in Australia this month to help you figure out which car you need to pick. We can then even put you in touch with one of our friendly dealers who might even be able to get you a better deal as well. So go to Google, type in Help Me Car Expert, or whip your phone out, scan the QR code, and away you go. Okay, so what does cargo space look like? It's not great with, actually, fun point as well, plastic tailgate. So they do this to save weight and fuel efficiency. So yeah, no, anyway, you've got just under 250 litres here, so really not a huge amount of space. You can't put a great deal there. Under here, you've got a safety triangle, jack, first aid kit, a few little bits and pieces. Oh, and this is basically what you rotate to drop your spare tyre down, which is located under the rear of the vehicle there. So you can increase this space by getting rid of your third row. That gives you about 550 litres to work with, so much better space there. And then I'll show you what it looks like with the suitcase in. Yeah, plenty of room there, which is good. And if you do want to expand the space even more, you can then fold everything else down. That gives you over 1,000 litres to play with. Okay, we've just hit the road in the XUV700. Now, I know that we've done a review on this before, but we had that was a while ago, dodgy weather back then. It's actually really nice today, so I'm looking forward to stretching its legs and seeing what it's like. So just as a reminder, under the bonnet, you've got one engine option here in Australia. It's a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine. Makes just under 150 kilowatts of power and a little under 400 Newton meters of torque. So pretty healthy numbers there, given that it's not an enormous vehicle, but it is quite sizable. And if you are going to be loading it up with 7 passengers, you really do want to have that confidence behind the wheel. It's all mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission. So we'll give it a little kick here to see what this feels like. Yeah, nice. It's really nice and solid. So it's right at the limit there where you're going to start getting torque steer out of a front-wheel drive SUV. And they've sort of just tuned it below that limit. If it was any more powerful or any more torquier than it is, you would find that it would be really quite hard to control if you had to step on the throttle at any given point. So I think you've done a good job there with the tuning, and it feels nice and punchy behind the wheel. Now, what does all that mean in terms of fuel economy? So Mahindra claims a combined average of just over 8 litres per 100 Ks. We're sitting at closer to the 9 litre per 100 mark, so a little bit over 9. It is on the thirstier side, and I would like to see it closer to that 8, especially given that we've been doing a fair bit of highway driving. So it is a little thirsty once you're starting to do that lower speed city stuff. That is one of the disadvantages of using a petrol engine in a vehicle like this instead of a diesel. Now let's talk about the ride. I've been really impressed with the ride actually. In and around town, it's just, I don't know, it just feels very premium and European. It's not really what you would expect from a vehicle that is in this price bracket. Normally you think affordable and you think it's going to be compromised in some way, but this actually does feel quite nice out on the road. In and around town, it's sort of nice and soft and compliant. Then as the speed picks up, it's still pretty good as well. We're going to go on our choppy road in a second, but we do have our sine waves coming up here. So I'm going to jack the speed up to 130. I want to see what body control's like if you are going to be driving this out in the country and you hit some consecutive sine waves like we have here. It's actually really reasonable. They've done such a good job with that. So it's soft to give you comfort, but still firm enough to keep the body in check over that kind of terrain. So it just shows you that they've put a lot of effort into making sure the ride is compliant and comfortable when it needs to be. I mentioned earlier as well that we'd been to India and seen how Mahindra operates, but more importantly, the Indian roads. They're quite similar to Australia, where you have decent quality roads for highways and major connections, but once you get off the main roads, they can get pretty dodgy. And it seems like, because they're similar conditions there in terms of the roads, that they're actually able to properly tune this so that it is comfortable both in India and in Australia without needing bespoke tunes. Mahindra also spent a lot of time with Scorpio here in Australia doing suspension tuning too. So I think it's a company that really is trying to put a lot of effort into localising this product for Australia. Okay, it is bumpy road time. We do this at 90 Ks an hour. So you've got independent rear suspension here, no adaptive damping or anything like that, but we do this at 90 Ks an hour to get an idea of what it's like on a really corrugated, choppy road. And just like I said before, this is handling this really well. Typically cars with poor suspension, and here's our condensed sine wave, will really get thrown around a lot on here, and this is just giving you confidence and comfort, which is all you need from a family SUV. Now let's pick up the speed a little bit. There is no sort of sport mode here, so we're just going to go for a little dab. I love this screen here that gives you your power and torque readings. We test every car back to back in the same way around our ride and handling track just to see what body control and handling is like. So quite an intrusive stability control system, but that's sort of pretty typical of a front-wheel drive SUV. Once the speed does pick up though, it's actually surprisingly fun to drive. There's decent communication through the steering. It is a little bit numb, but you are feeling what's going on there. And then the body actually stays really nice and composed as the speed does pick up. So they've done a pretty good job there in terms of giving this surety behind the wheel. I did notice when we hit mid-corner bump, like just there, you can kind of feel it getting a little ratty, but outside of that, it actually doesn't feel too bad. And again, I'm just surprised with the way that it handles. It's not meant to be a sports car, but it has a sporty feel to it. And given that it's front-wheel drive, decent amount of road holding as well. So here comes our back straight. We'll just put a little punt onto the back straight as well and just see what that feels like. yeah, still picking up speed nicely. So there you go. Good job, Mahindra. In terms of road noise, it's fine. It's nothing amazing. It's not a 7 Series by any stretch, but it's also not overly loud either. We put it up against our calibrated sound meter, and this is how it all went. Now let's talk about visibility. So I can see clearly down the front there, wing mirrors are nice and big. This is what I was talking about with that camera. You can just see that the refresh rate or the frame rate there, Sean? Frame rate? Frame rate, there we go, is really bad, and it just kind of makes it a pointless exercise. The other thing that's really annoying is the center headrest. It just blocks most of your vision. So when I picked up the car, I just removed it because I couldn't really see out the back. So a couple of things they could definitely fix. Now, because this is front-wheel drive, you actually get a pretty decent turning circle, 11.5 metres, and if you are inclined to do so, a 1,500 kilo brake towing capacity. Now, time to do a little bit of performance testing. We'll see how quick this goes from 0 to 120, and in that we'll also get the 80 to 120 speed as well. So I'll switch off traction control. There it is there. There's no sport mode, so I'll just dial up some revs and we will see how we go. Tiny bit of wheel slip off the line. Feels pretty eager, so there's 80, 100, and 120. 0 to 100 took 9.06 seconds, so okay, but not amazing. 80 to 120, 6.38 seconds. So again, okay, but not amazing. It is what it is. I think the only way you're going to extract a bit more pep out of this is if you made it all-wheel drive. Adding more power and torque on a front-wheel drive with tyres this wide would just be a disaster to drive. So an all-wheel drive is the only way they're going to make this any quicker. Okay, let's see what the brake and tyre package is like. I'm going to stop from 100 k's an hour here. Okay, it's about 100. 100 to 0, 2.97 seconds, 40.57 metres. So yeah, look, it's reasonable. You want to be sort of in between that 35 and 40 metre mark. So this is kind of there. It's really not that bad. Okay, so let's see how quick it goes in reverse. Here we go. 40 kilometres an hour. Okay, so the Mahindra XUV700. This is probably one of the surprises in the segment because it delivers you a bit of punch behind the wheel. You've got a 7-seater for an incredibly affordable price, and I don't know, long warranty, you've got all the standard sort of tech you need inside the cabin. Really is just let down by a couple of those niggly things. So the cruise control being a bit funny and weird at times, that sort of indicator noise and the camera that comes up for the indicator too. I think all that stuff needs to be solved. Outside of that though, the black edition basically fixes all the issues with those light coloured interiors and ticks all of those boxes for a price that I reckon is pretty decent. So let me know in the comments section below. Have you had a test drive of these? And I haven't seen a huge amount of these on the road, but the people that I know that have bought one seem to enjoy it. So let me know in the comments section below if you bought one of these or if you had a look at one of these and bought something else instead. I'm keen to know why people have chosen something different perhaps. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.